Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing my November wrap up featuring all the books that I read in the month of November, and I read 18 of them, so let's get started. The first book I read was Nearly Happily Family by Catherine McKinnon. I'm not really sure. I rated this book 2 stars. I thought it was okay. It was nothing special. Definitely not one I'm going to keep, and I probably wouldn't recommend it. I only finished it because by the time I realized I just wasn't going to enjoy it, it was halfway through, and it was such a big book like that. You just don't, like, if you've made that much progress with it, you might as well just finish it. So I finished it, but yes, I wouldn't recommend it. And yeah. And then I read The Rebel Fairy by Deborah Wright, which is basically a chick lit book, and I rated it 3 stars. It's basically about a guy named Jack whose life is going pretty shit at the moment, and these 2 fairies who are in charge of trying to fix it, and stuff ensures, and these fairies kind of make things worse for Jack, unfortunately. It was just a funny, romantic kind of chick lit. If you're in the mood for something like this, I thought it was pretty good. I kind of picked it up because it said fairy in the title, but yeah, I got it at an op shop, so I paid like $1 for it, and it was an alright read, and I am going to keep it and, you know, reread it in the future and decide then if I'm going to still want to keep it or get rid of it then. But yes, for now it is a keeper. And then I read Born or Bred, Martin Brighton, The Making of a Mass Murderer, which is by Robert Wainwright and Paolo Turdo, I think, and I rated this one 2 stars. So it's basically about the Port Arthur massacre that Martin Brighton was obviously in charge of. I guess he massacred all these people, but it kind of went off tangent a little bit, like, you know how it says born or bred, like they went into like the past, like back to his like great grandfather and his great grandfather and all this like shit, like to try and decide like if it was because of them that he was evil and decided to murder everyone. It was just a really strange tangent to go off. I didn't find anything that actually do with the actual story, and I just didn't enjoy it. The actual facts about the massacre themselves were interesting, but apart from that, it was just okay, and I will be getting rid of this one. And then I read Horse Race, which I picked up in an op shop. It's like introduced by Elizabeth Lindsay, and it has all these authors in it, like a short story kind of book. However, what I didn't realize is it mostly takes horse stories from like other books like Black Beauty, Narnia and everything, so you kind of get, if anything, just like half a story in here, not even that, sometimes just maybe like a little passage from a book, and it just felt really incomplete. I thought they were going to be like, you know, little short stories, but they were just mostly stories cut out of other stories. Like even one had like a passage from Alice in Wonderland in here. I don't know, it just wasn't great, and I wouldn't recommend it. And then my friend lent me the Howl's Moving Castle series, as I've never read that before. So that consists of Howl's Moving Castle, Castle in the Air, and House of Many Ways, and they're by Diana Wynne Jones, which I'm probably saying wrong, and probably lots of people are going to murder me. But I love Howl's Moving Castle and the movie, but I had never read the book before, so yeah, I decided to read them. The covers of these are absolutely gorgeous, and I really wanted to love this series. I only liked it though. I rated each book 3 stars. The main problem I had with these is just with this author's writing, you can tell that she's writing like that her audience is children, and it's so apparent in her writing for me. Like I just can't get past how, like if I was younger, sure, maybe I would have liked these, but me now as a 21-year-old, they're just too childish. I guess for me, the writing style is too childish. It's just not my thing anymore. It is unfortunate because I really did want to buy them myself and own these, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to reread them ever again. But I guess it was nice to say that I have read the Howl's Moving Castle series, as I really do love the Howl's Moving Castle animated movie by Studio Ghibli. That is fantastic. And then I picked up this book again at the op shop. It is Remember Me by Sophie Kinsella, and I rated this book 4 stars. So it's about this girl named Lexi, and Lexi lives a pretty average life, and she's not really happy with her life, and then she gets into an accident, and she wakes up in the hospital after this accident and thinks it's 2004 still, and she realizes it's 2007, and she is suddenly like in her dream life. So Lexi has to discover how she landed this dream life, and if the dream life is actually all it's cracked up to be. It's a pretty funny romantic comedy, really interesting too, with the background of amnesia and everything. I just thought it was really interesting. But yeah, I rated this 4 stars. I really liked it, you know, as a nice little chick lit. If you're interested in this sort of stuff, I would recommend this one. And then I read Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins, and I rated this one 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was fantastic. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this one because I have done a review on my channel if you would like to check that out. But I thought it was a fantastic ending to the series and I just loved it. And then I read another fantastic book, probably one of my new favourites for the whole entire year. And again, I have done a book review recently on this book on my channel if you'd like to check it out. But it is Wonder by R.J. Palacio. And I rated this book 5 out of 5 stars. It's about a boy named Holgi who is born with a facial deformity. I would definitely recommend it. And if you want to hear more what it's about and my proper thoughts on it, you can watch my review. But if you have not read this, I would definitely recommend reading this because it's absolutely fantastic. And then I went to go see Mockingjay, and so after I saw Mockingjay, I read the book to kind of compare them, and I rated this book 5 out of 5 stars. I love Mockingjay, it's fantastic. I do have my slight issues with it, but all in all though, I really do enjoy it, so yes. And then I kind of went back to the average books again, apart from those really free books there, Wonder and Mockingjay and Isla. I kind of had like an average reading month, unfortunately, except for one book at the end here that I'll show you soon. But yeah, they were all kind of like 2 and 3 stars ratings for me, which isn't normally what I read. I normally read great books, but yes. Anyway, the book that I read after that is Careless by Deborah Robertson, and I rated this book 2 stars. It's set in Australia, which I found was really interesting as not many books are set in Australia, and it's about this family who loses the younger child in like a massacre, I think it is. The book I felt though was all over the place. The characters are like kind of changed, but it was never kind of apparent who was actually, you know, whose point of view you were reading from. It was all over the place. I don't know, I just felt like the plot was average at best, and I didn't really enjoy my time reading it. It was okay, but definitely not one I would recommend reading, and definitely one that I'll be getting rid of. I need space for good books on my shelves, ones that I love and will continuously reread, and so far the books this month just haven't been those sort of books. And then I read The Diary of V, Happily Ever After by Deborah Kent. I picked this book back up in an op shop like 6 years ago, and it's been on my shelf and I'm like, right, I have to read it because I need to know if I'm going to get rid of it or not. It kind of sounded scandalous, and I thought it was going to be something like 50 Shades of Grey. Thankfully it wasn't. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just not really into that myself. I read this book 3 stars. It was kind of a chick lit romantic. I did enjoy my time reading it, which I'm surprised. I think it's like the 3rd book in the series, but I wasn't really confused. It was one of those books in a series where you can just kind of pick up any book, I think, and just read them and not really be confused and enjoy it. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not though, because as I said, I don't own any of the other books in the series, and I'm not really sure. Unless like I found like another book in the op shop of this series for like $1, it's probably not something I would ever go out of my way to buy. So yeah, I'm unsure about this one, whether I'm keeping it or not, but I did rate it 3 stars and I did like it. And then I read Bones to Ashes, which I rated 2 stars, and it's by Kathy Richards. Again, this is a book in a series. I think this series is based off Bones, the TV show, which I've never read, but I do like true crime, and I like Dexter and all that stuff, so I thought I would give these books a go. I had a lot of issue with the stories though. I thought the characters were average at best. One of the side characters in here just seemed like they were there just to be a side character. They didn't add anything to the story, and they were just really boring. I did like the background story of what was happening here, like what the murder mystery was in this book. However, it was kind of see-through and you kind of knew where it was going, so it's quite disappointing, and yeah. And then I read Charmed Life by, again, Diana Wynne Jones. Please don't kill me. I rated this book 2 stars. Again, you could just tell that it was for a child. The storyline was average at best for me. I think this is the last book of Diana Wynne Jones I will pick up. My friend let me all of her books, and this is the last one I'm going to be reading of hers. I'm not going to continue with the series. I'm not going to read them. They're just too childish, I guess, for me. I'm sorry, don't hate me, but that's just the way I feel. You know, I'm 21 and you can tell that these books are written and meant for kids. Then there was a reread for me. I read Red Riding Hood by Sarah Blakely Cartwright and David Leslie Johnson. I got this book back when the movie came out and I read it and I can't remember my exact thoughts on it, so I read it again. I rated it 3 stars. I liked it. I'm probably going to keep it for now. I actually haven't seen the movie version of this yet, but I will be picking that up soon. I didn't like how it ended on a cliffhanger, which if you've read the book you probably know, but I'm pretty sure the movie doesn't end on a cliffhanger. Pretty sure that's like a ploy to go see the movie then, like, because it leaves out like an extra chapter where the movie doesn't. So it's like, oh, you can read the book but go see the movie because you actually get to see the ending, which I found really annoying. But it was okay. I thought it was interesting, and yeah, I'm gonna keep it for the moment, and yeah, probably in another couple of years I'll read it and decide then, you know, if I still want to keep it or not. And then I read another book in the Kathy Reacher series, which is called 206 Bones, and this is definitely the last book of hers I will be picking up. The other book was okay, this one was just bad. The plot twists in this book were non-existent. You could tell what was going to happen a mile away. The characters were stupid not to see what was happening right in front of their eyes. If you could even call them characters, I would just call them dull people. Really, they were just dull and annoying and stupid and had no life or personality, and this whole storyline, the murder mystery, this one just wasn't interesting too. And as I said, I could tell it a mile away. They just was not a good book, and I would definitely be not continuing on with reading any more of her works. I would definitely will be getting rid of the series. And then the last book I read this month, thankfully, was actually a good book, and it was Everybody Sees Ants by A.S. Kin, and I rated this book 5 out of 5 stars. So it's about this boy named Lucky who is being bullied by a bully at his school relentlessly, and he's been bullied for his whole life. But to escape that, Lucky kind of in his dreams escapes to the war where his grandfather's store is trapped, I guess, and Lucky kind of sees it as his mission to rescue him in these dreams. So you're going to have 2 storylines going on. You have the dream storyline, like with Lucky and his grandfather, and then the real life storyline of Lucky. I said Lucky before, I meant Lucky. Of Lucky going through school and dealing with his life, being bullied, and he's kind of messed up, I guess, family life too. I thought it was really funny. It definitely has dark humor in it. So if you're not really into dark humor, maybe you wouldn't like it, but for someone who doesn't mind it, if it's done right, this was done fantastically, and I just really enjoyed my time reading this book. I thought it was fantastic, and I would definitely recommend it. This is what makes young adult fantastic, this kind of book, and it was just fantastic. So yeah, these are all the books I read. Hopefully they're all in frame, but I never get to get them all in frame. But 18 books, which I thought was pretty good. It was a pretty average reading month though in terms of what I read, but I did read some really good ones there in a mix of some bad ones, and at least these bad ones are now going hopefully to a good home where I can have space now for better books on my shelf. And the bad books I did read primarily were from the op shop, so it didn't really hurt my wallet too much to let them go. So I would love to know what you read in the month of November and what was your favourite read of the month. Mine was probably Wonder by RJ Palacio, and if you haven't read it yet, go read it, it's so good. And like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you'd like to see more book related videos from me, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye!